Hey there, friends. Welcome to another episode of Behind the Mask. I'm your host, Sarah Joy, your friendly neighborhood interrogator turned clone, helping you to get to know who the person is behind the screen name. It would be tonight, but it's today because we have hopped across the pond. This is a special episode, and we're chatting with Adam, who you may know from Force Majeure and Behind the Mask.
And behind the
Now,
mask, conveniently right here. Hello.
right here, right now. Oh my God, it's amazing. I'm going to mute that amazing sound effect we had in the background there. So, hello, Adam. Tell us how the world might know you outside of this channel, of what
yeah.
you can
So
tell us.
yeah. I run. I'm the showrunner for the Force Majeure podcast, which is not a fantasy, a Star Wars actual play. The clue is in the title. It's a pun. I love puns. An actual play Star Wars podcast using the FFG system. We've been going for about 6 years now. Kind of one of the I want to say we're one of the second wave of the Star Wars podcast. So like the first wave we is like campaign and Dice for Brains and Redemption and Tales from the Hiding Way, which was a talk show one, is amazing. And I mean Ben will correct me, but I think Heroes, which is Heroes the Hiding Way, which is their actual
Mhm.
play version, that started about the same time, if not just before me. Ben will, but that kind of round, and then there was me, and then following me, the third gen is like Coruscant Knights and Flight Risk and Starbirds that were about a year or so after me. So I'm kind of in that pedigree. An excellent company, very excellent company. I
Very
also
excellent.
do a fantasy one called Dungeon Majeure,
Mm.
which is using Genesis because Genesis is
Ooh.
a great system rather than D&D, which is less great. Soz y'all at me. It's just not. Um, but that's only 2 seasons and is a sister project for kind of when I want to go back to my actual roots. A lot of these, in fact, all of these shows that I do were originally other people's projects that I've ended up just doing
So
because
was it just like the group project where someone was like, "Hey, let's do a podcast," and then suddenly they're
yeah,
gone and you're like, "Well, I guess I'm doing a podcast now."
kind of. So, Force Majeure came about because I it all goes back to when I burned out really heavily running and playing Pathfinder First Edition. It was
Oh,
just
okay.
too
I
crunchy and
mean,
too broke. And I wanted to. I kicked back very hard and went to like the super rules light stuff like Fate, but I just didn't understand how to run Fate. I just couldn't grok it. So I started hunting. I just started listening to podcasts at that time as well, and I was listening to audio drama, spooky stuff like Lore and Welcome to Night Vale and that sort of stuff.
oh my
And
God, yes, welcome to Night Vale.
yeah,
Yes.
it's great. And I ended up finding Not Another Tavern, which
Uh-huh.
is a Fate accelerated one. And then through Not Another Tavern, I found Dice for Brains, and through Dice for Brains, I found Redemption. And I got really, really heavily into them. And at the same time, me and Mikey and Mim and Ed and Ross were regularly going round to Mikey and Mim's place on a Sunday to play board games. And
Mhm.
while we were there, and we like would occasionally play tabletop stuff as well at the same time, but it was mostly playing board games. Um, and I'd got Mikey into Dice for Brains as well, and waxing very effusive about how I loved this whole thing that I'd found. Um, and Ed said, "I've got a really good idea for a Star Wars game. Do you want to do it? Let's do a podcast." And I went, "Yeah, all right, why not? Why not? Let's give it a try." I'm All the LARPs that I was involved in had died a death by that point, and I really needed a creative outlet, and it seemed like a good laugh. And then we we got sorted, and I bought all the equipment, and I got everything set up. And then a week before we do record, Ed went, "Actually, I'm not ready to run a campaign just yet." And I was like, "No, right, give me a week." And that's where the Coalfire Chronicles came from. That basically started everything because I was like, "No, I have paid for all of this gear, and if we don't start, nothing will happen, and it will be yet another ADHD hobby wherein I have an awful lot of stuff that then just gathers dust. We are doing this, y'all." And so we did. So that's how Force Majeure kind of came about, and me
I
running
love
season
it.
one. me running season 1 of Coldfire basically bought Ed enough time to write season 1 of Shadows, which was originally going to be the Force Majeure campaign. So all like the story hopping between seasons like came about because Ed was very busy and was like, oh no, I'm not. Um, love him. I've worked with Ed for many years and I love Ed to pieces. And I've forgotten that he's not always the most organised of people. God bless him. Which he will admit to.
That's
You know,
a lot of us aren't, right? A lot of us in this space aren't. You had said, so I didn't want it to become another ADHD hobby where things collected dust. Yeah, we're all in
yeah.
that. Most of us are in that brain space. It's a
Oh
little,
yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
the amount of
Yeah.
things around the house. Yeah, that you're like, I'm gonna get back to that. So
Yeah.
you said, all your LARPing had to, first off, you are not in the continental US or Canada.
No, no, I'm
You
in
are
England.
somewhere else.
Yeah,
Yes.
I'm in England.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
First international episode. Very
Yes.
excited about. Well, technically, I guess Canada's our first international episode. First overseas episode.
Cross the pond episode.
Cross the pond episode. I love it very much. Okay. So LARPing. Your LARPing
Yeah.
had died of death. Tell us about your LARPing. How'd you get
So
into
one of my oldest and best mates, Stuart. His friends and his brothers used. In fact, it's through Stuart and his brothers who were older than him that I got into role playing pretty much
that?
at
Nice.
all.
Okay. Okay.
There was a game that they were involved in years ago that I went to when I was like 11 or 12 and loved it, and then I kind of lost the ability to go. And then when I was about 18, I was running the RPG department of a hobby shop in Manchester,
Nice.
and one of our local clubs came in and were like, "Can we put up some posters for the LARP we run?" I was like, "Yes, of course. What is this? Tell me about this." And it was one called Song of Steel, that was a Manchester-based one that had, as with all of our LARPs over here, there's a long fragmented history of schisms between them and other clubs that ended up in Song of Steel. And I started going when I was about 17 or 18,
Mhm.
and I absolutely loved it. It really did it for me. It was weekend club LARP, um, but instead of some of the bigger festival events where it's like 24 hours time in and it's 4 full days of it, basically we had Friday and Saturday nights were in character tavern nights. So we would sit
Mhm.
around and drink beer as in our characters, and things would happen. There would be plot going on and stuff happening, but mostly we were there to get very drunk and be sarcastic at people and hit other people with rubber swords. And then during the Saturday day, there would be 3 hour long linear adventures that would go out.
Mhm.
So you'd potentially have the chance to play multiple different characters. You were expected to crew the ones you weren't playing. There were like 8 or 10 player slots to play. Um, and it was just revolution. It was phenomenal, and it really did it for me because I have a lot of character attrition. I just died hither and yon. Like I lost so many characters, it was ridiculous. I lost at one point in a year playing once a month. I lost 23 characters. Yeah,
Playing once, so you played
was
12 times and you lost 23 characters, which is approximately
yeah, two a
two
week, 2 a month.
characters per
Yep.
month.
Yep. Yeah, yeah. I just couldn't keep a character alive for about a year. It was ridiculous. Um,
Oh my God. What did you
but that
keep doing?
getting horribly killed by my friends mostly. So they
But
just
how?
they just beat me up with rubber swords largely. I'd either be too cocky and get isolated and then ganged up on, or I'd be too loud because I'm quite loud and therefore be a target, so I get magic to death. Or I'd go off scouting because I thought I'd try and play a scout and then get ambushed in a bush and have my throat slit. um, I would trip over in a tavern and then they'd all just hit me as they ran in, and like it was ridiculous. I just couldn't keep a character. Like I fell down a hill into a river, and while I tried to get out of the river I got crossbowed in the face. Like it was just a catalogue of dying like a peasant in a bush. um,
Oh my God.
but that
It's like 24 ways to die in
yeah,
LARP.
if you can
Oh my
name it, I died that way at least twice. It was ridiculous.
God. At least
Used as a
twice.
human shield by my own party. Um, hmm no
Oh my
mimicked. No, Richard, we didn't have them. We tried to.
No mimics. Okay,
No
okay.
mimics.
But
No
no
mimics.
mimics in the actual game.
bit hard to
Although with the rate you were
represent.
going, it feels like they wouldn't have to be in the actual game for you to have died by it.
No. That's how I met my wife actually as well, doing some of the larger
Oh,
festival
nice.
ones. We both met
Uh-huh.
doing that when she lived down south, and then we kept in touch. And then Song of Steel, we ended up having to do a big reboot of it because the rules were too complex and we'd hemorrhaged a load of players, so we tried to revitalize. And then, as is tradition, eventually the club shizzed itself to death, um, badly. And
As
then
is
I,
tradition here too.
as is
Yes,
tradition,
yes, absolutely. It's a
uh,
worldwide phenomena.
yeah. And then
People
I wrote
become
my own, and that ran for about
Oh,
two and a
nice.
half years. And then my
Uh-huh.
co-writer was more problematic than I realized he was. Um,
Mhm.
Drove away an awful lot of my players, um,
Oh,
and then
no.
on the evening of the last event, went to Japan with his new girlfriend he hadn't told me about for 6 months, but didn't tell me until I messaged him going, "Why aren't you at the event?" And he went, "Oh, I went to Japan on Monday. I'm living here now." And I went, "Okay." Um, which
Yes.
ironically, yeah, it
Okay.
ended up being a really good event despite that because the handful of players I had really rallied around me. I think they could see how broken I was by it. And then because I
Mhm.
just didn't have, because like I was supposed to be running the Friday and two of the three adventures on the Saturday, and he was supposed to be
Mhm.
running the third adventure on the Saturday and the Saturday night because we'd kept that kind of
Mhm.
short. Cause it's how I write. I write much better for short, punchy stuff. And what I ended up doing instead, because my players basically went, go and sort yourself out. So there's a tabletop game called Everway, which I absolutely love, and you
Ooh, I
play
know
it
those.
with
Uh-huh.
effectively tarot cards rather than
Okay.
playing cards or dice. So each
Uh-huh.
card has two interpretations on it, and
Oh, fun.
I wrote it as an in-character training exercise, like a simulated tactical event. And
Mhm.
I wrote the characters based on the main characters that the players that remained were playing, on the assumption they'd be playing themselves. They'd be so they were LARP characters playing tabletop characters in a tabletop, but
Oh,
half of
that's
my
so
players decided
fun.
to poach other people's characters first. So they weren't even playing their own character; they were playing parodies of other people around the table.
Okay,
And it,
excuse me.
for 10 players, it's the biggest titter pig I've ever run. Um,
Uh-huh.
but yeah, it was a really good thing, and it kind of signed off with a bang. But I do now have a loft full of LARP gear that I need to get rid of really and do. Um,
Yes.
but yeah, like,
Yeah.
and all the ones that are left, the style of play doesn't suit my style of play. They're all taking themselves a little bit too seriously, and it's
Okay.
more what I call ball gowning. So it's very
Mhm.
social intrigue and all that sort of stuff. Whereas what I
Like
want to do is get
vampire
drunk with my
masquerade.
mates and yeah, I want to get drunk with my mates in a field and hit each other with
Mhm.
rubber swords. Like that's which
I mean,
I
like, here's the beautiful thing, you can still do that. You don't have to even LARP. Just go out,
yeah,
be yourself, and get drunk with your mates and hit them with swords.
yeah, I suppose they frown upon it here though. The police tend to get called if you're not doing it at a proper event. So yeah,
What?
yeah, I always remember one bit when I'd recently started, and I'm
Uh-huh.
taking public transport to get to an event, and I got pulled over by the police because I had on my big backpack full of costume, I had a sword on this side, strapped to this side, an axe strapped to this side, and a crossbow hanging off the back, and they were like, "Sir, can we have a word?" I'm like, "Yes, they're rubber. It's fine. It's all fine. Everything's fine." Um,
Oh my
but yeah,
god, that's hilarious.
but yeah,
So is
so
is that popular? Is that popular enough that people recognize what you're doing?
nowadays, yeah, very much so.
Okay.
I mean, some of the bigger events have like 5, 6,000 players each event. You know, it's probably more niche than if you go, oh, I do D&D. Like, it's not quite that cultural. Although Role Models as a film kind of helped a bit. Which is a great film.
I
Our
don't know
costumes
that
better.
film.
Oh,
Your
it's
costumes are better.
yeah, Sean William Scott, and I want to say Paul Rudd. And
Oh, nice,
um,
okay. I feel like this is required geek watching.
yeah, it's good fun. It is good fun.
Okay.
Um, yeah. Um, but yeah, I also found like, especially because I did my knee in the first time about
Yeah,
50,
let's talk about that.
yeah, Yeah, the first time I did it was
Oh,
about
did you
15 years
also
ago.
have a knee injury 15 years ago?
Yeah,
Oh my
so
god. We're knee twinsies.
we are. It might not that yes, Katie, that is indeed a gift from role models. It's a good film. I really enjoy it. Our costume's better though, and our weapons are significantly. If I would have thought, I would have brought up some of the ones that we use because they're not just like pipe legging and gaffer tape. They're the proper good looking stuff. Um,
So what you have to do is you have to drop the pictures of that in the behind the mask chat. What this does is this gets everybody on YouTube into our server because
yeah,
that's actually our secret goal is to just build our server until we achieve world domination.
I'll see what I can do.
Oh my
But
god, I
yeah,
love that. Yeah, homework.
so but yeah, I used to. I throw. I'm a big fella,
Okay.
and I used to go large when I danced. I used to go properly large. Um, and at one of my mates' birthday parties, I was throwing some shapes and threw my knee out. Sat down, carried on drinking. Another of my friends that was there had like medical grade Voltarol gel. So we covered my
Uh-huh.
bad knee in that. I carried on drinking and then was like, huh, this doesn't hurt anymore. Back on the dance floor and permanently misaligned my kneecap from that. Um,
Oh.
but what that meant was like I couldn't really dance anymore without it going. But also,
Uh-huh.
I tended to play frontline fighters when I was playing. I ended up doing a lot more reffing and a lot of writing. I did a
Mhm.
lot of. I was on the campaigns committee for more than for longer than I wasn't, like writing adventures and running parts of the campaign world. But I played frontline fighters for the most part. Shield and axe, dwarvish usually as well. Um, stocky. Um, and
I
I
love
just
that.
couldn't do that because I can't
Mhm.
hold the shield wall anymore, which is also ironically how I injured myself the first time round because I can't hold the shield wall anymore. I was explaining that to a room full of admin staff at a staff training event during a hiatus that you can't do it because really to stand a proper shield wall you need to be able to stamp and push because you kind of choreograph it like with the other crew. Like if they
Mhm.
knew how you fought they would know what to expect for, and you would stamp and you would push as they were about to hit you to block the
Right.
charge and push them back so you could get your picks in or whatever. And
It
you
is a group exercise 100%
yeah
in the
yeah,
it's
and you
very
can't do that
but you would be training with these people all the time, right?
kind
Like, so
of
you would know, the more you
yeah
train with people, the more you know how they
yeah
fight.
like there were definitely
Yeah.
some players there that I could go more theatrical with than others because
Mhm.
we've known each other for so long, you kind of know each other's fighting styles and what makes
Right.
each other look cool as well because that's half the fun of it. Everyone wants to look cool.
Yes.
Um, and I was
All
demonstrating
real.
that yeah that
Yeah.
I can't hold the shield wall because I can't stamp and push anymore, and
Uh-huh.
demonstrated not a full stamp but a minor stamp, and then my
Uh-huh.
foot went out from under me, and that's how I horrifically crippled myself a few months ago.
Yep, yep.
Yeah,
Then you landed in the hospital and had surgery and got
yeah,
way more good drugs than I did, which we will not name on the YouTube because it doesn't
no,
like
it does
it.
not. But they were the good drugs.
Oh
They
my
were the
gosh.
good. But this is the first time I've been at my desk in 2.5 months because I can't bend my leg still. So I can't normally get here where I'm in my big chair with my actual microphone and do stuff.
Do you have the big brace?
Yeah, yeah, with
Yes.
where you could dial in how much of a bend you're allowed in your knee at any point in time. I
Mhm.
should be allowed full bend, and I'm on about 40 degrees.
Oh,
Yeah,
no. You
yeah,
don't
not
have one
quite.
of the cool bendy machines then.
No,
And I say cool, I absolutely hate being in this thing, but I'm up to 90 in the first week, so
no.
it's
They wouldn't do anything for the first 2 months while the tendons were because they had to.
Oh,
How
that's
you
right.
fix this? Yeah, they had to drill my kneecap
Mhm.
and sew my tendon into my kneecap.
Oh.
Stars y'all is horrid. Um, but I've not
Oh
had
my
any
god, it's
physiotherapy
rough.
yet at all. Like I'm waiting on a referral coming in, so I've just been doing leg strength training myself so that I can walk because that's a useful thing to be able to do.
It is, it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, and, like, activating that quad again, apparently that goes real fast,
Yeah.
and you're like, "Wow, I've got, like, little baby chicken leg over here. I look like I've skipped leg day." And then, like, my other knee is all beefy from having to carry me around so much.
Yeah. Well, I
Oh my
used to,
god.
before I did this, I did 20K every morning on an exercise bike. That was what I did. I did 20K on an exercise bike while listening to
Mhm.
podcasts and feeding the cats and playing on my tablet before I started work. and like my calves have gone from having the only day, like the only exercise I've ever been proud of myself for, and I'm like, uh,
Yeah.
uh.
Yeah, that's all right. That's all right. You've got plenty of podcasts. We'll get you back up to where you were as soon as they get PT. Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
That's awesome. Oh,
yeah,
but that's like, and it affects every part of your life, like even your game life, because as you said, like suddenly you get drugged up and your endurance goes way down.
yeah.
Um, I played D&D last night and I could only last for 2 hours. And I
Yeah.
was like, no, I'm done. I'm done. Have you found that with podcasting lately?
We
Has it
are on a
affected
hiatus.
you? You're
We
on
are on a
hiatus.
Yeah. So
Uh-huh.
there have been personal issues amongst the cast, which I'm not going to go into,
Oh
other than
no.
to say it has caused difficulties recording, and we haven't recorded since June
Hmm.
anyway. So what it's mostly impacted is normally when I can see we're coming up to a content break, I would write and organize a load of one shots, and I just haven't been able to do that. Um, because like I mean, I say that now I have, and in fact we're recording a one shot tomorrow for the show to finally start getting some content back in.
Nice.
But I've normally like we would never be in the position of the show having to go on a break because Force Majeure has not had a break in 6 years of broadcasting. We've never done it. I've always managed to pull something out the bag to get something in, and I haven't because I've just not had that. In fact, when I did this, I was in the middle of running a campaign on Tuesday night with my Tuesday night buds, and like one of my friends, Rob, very kindly has tagged in to run D&D
Mhm.
instead because I can't. I need. I'm playing and running and working from a laptop tray on my recliner chair because I can't sit down for long enough to do more than a couple of hours. So
Mhm.
and it's not big enough space to have like my stats and my initiative tracker, and I'm running the Mecha Hack, which by the way is a phenomenally good fun game, and I will be doing a one shot for patrons, um,
Oh, fun,
for recording
fun,
for the
fun.
show. We
Right, right.
will be
Little
organising
little
shortly.
plug. You
Little
guys
plug.
have a Patreon?
Oh
Yeah?
yes, we do. We do have
Mhm.
Patreon. Um, Force Majeure, no, patreon.com/Force Majeure Pod, I think it is. We do have a patron. It starts at $1, and you get everything from $1. It's basically you just you pay what you think we're worth, but you get everything, even if you can only afford $1. Because, like, look at the economy. $1 is a lot of money to people at the moment in this world. Um, so yeah, you get everything, which is outtakes, and other stuff like a couple of the one shots I've run. I've drafted up as an adventure framework so that other people can run that. How I write my games, is
Mhm.
I write an opening crawl, and sometimes I record that so other people can use it. And then I do a couple of locations that might be key, and I do a
Mhm.
couple of NPCs that might be key, and I do a this is roughly what is going on at the point the game starts.
Mhm.
Like go for it, because if there's one thing I've learned in 30 years, 35 years of role playing, there is no point plotting out anything more than that because your players will not like they either get railroaded and kick out and kick off, like, or just go. So I was running a Dragon Age game, and Dragon Age is a phenomenally good system as well. The age system is top notch. Um,
Drunkle Grog supports this. He's
mm,
in my foreground over there
yeah,
here, and he's
love it.
silently cheering for that. Yeah.
The second edition of Fantasy Age has finally come out, which is maybe, just maybe, Green Ronin will actually support the damn game. Don't care about
Darn game. Darn game.
darn game.
Sorry, Mark.
Damn's fine.
No,
Damn
no.
isn't swearing, right?
It is for us. Yeah.
Oh, uh-oh. Soz y'all. Um,
Yeah, yeah. I know. We're not as progressive yet. We'll get there.
I'm gonna have to police my tone even more
You've done so well. You've done so well.
because over here it's not swearing. It's not even remotely. It's just an
Right. Well,
emphasis.
it shouldn't be. We use darn. I
Yeah,
don't know why.
because
Mhm.
America was founded by all the people who were too religious for the UK at a time of mad, like, proper deep religious schisming over here, and we're like, nah, even by our standards, y'all are lunatics. Off you pop to the states, thank you. We should.
Oh my god, that's hilarious.
Love you really. Well,
Yep.
um,
Yep.
now there's like both of our nations have weirdly puritanical streaks about different things, but
Yes.
I
Yes.
really notice it with my American friends, like what is just nothing to us over here.
Mhm.
Um, like even down to like, well, yeah, what is swearing, what isn't. Like there are words that we use over here as punctuation that are not swearing over here, but very much are over there. And I've had to, because I try and run Force Majeure and Dungeon Majeure as family friendly shows,
And you're like,
but
"This
like
is family friendly here."
family friendly for the UK, you know.
Mhm.
So there is the swear words that I know. We have we over here. We have what's called the watershed, which is at 9 p.m. And there is
Okay.
some stuff that you can do and say after the watershed that you can't do before, because the assumption is that children will stop watching TV after 9 o'clock. I don't know if it still goes, but that's kind of,
Interesting.
so like I keep to the swear
Mhm.
words I know could be broadcast on British TV pre-watershed, but apparently less so for the States.
Oh,
There
yeah.
we
No,
go.
no, no. It doesn't
Yeah,
happen like yeah, like 8 o'clock. Anything goes.
yeah.
That's why we have kids' channels. You just put them on the kids' channel.
Well, like we do now, but I'm going back, like back in the day when we had three channels. This all came from right
Right.
back in forth
So,
when I were
what
a
did
lad.
watershed come from? What did that represent? Do you have any idea? Because I'm gonna have to Google this now if you
Yeah, I
don't.
don't know, don't
No?
know.
No?
Um,
All right. Chat. Your
yes,
mission. You are going to go and you're gonna find out what watershed meant
yeah,
in the UK, why it was such a time marker. Go.
yeah. But yeah, so yeah, sorry about that brief digression
No,
on swearing
listen,
habits. There
this
we
is
go.
what we do here. This is what we do here. This is what we want to talk about. It's absolutely fascinating.
What was I? But yeah, so going back to adventure plotting and that sort of stuff,
Mhm.
I was throwing in rumors for my party, just world building, just like world building fluff. Oh, and while you're at this bar, people are talking about this, and my party were like, that sounds much more fun than the adventure we're on. So I had to pull an entire 8 hour adventure out of a one line throwaway rumor, and I did, and it
Oh.
was great. In fairness, but it was probably like, I'm gonna need 5 minutes here, y'all. Like, oh, is this not written? A throwaway bar rumor, but now it has to be something. Because if you go all the way to this place and there's nothing there, you'll be very disappointed in me. So there has to be
Mhm.
something there. Well, you wouldn't have mentioned it if it wasn't a plot relevant thing. No, just
Not true. Not true.
aha! Richard has saved us.
Let's see. Okay, so I like Andrew's version better. It's the time you're supposed to lock your
Yes.
kids in the watershed so you can watch TV.
Yeah. Yeah.
And let's see. It was the actual name on their ID. It's the same way that a geological watershed divides two drainage basins. Okay, I don't even know what that is.
Yeah.
A broadcasting watershed serves as the dividing line in a schedule between family-oriented content and content deemed suitable only for a more mature audience. So, what is a
Yeah.
geological watershed?
Oh, it's like I think it's to do with the water table, effectively. When you like out there in big fields. Yeah.
Mhm.
And
It's
some
science.
places, yeah, yeah, I don't know. It's science. It's
Okay.
geology and geography. Like it's not what I do. I'm a creative soul. I don't understand things.
Right.
Yes, thank you, Ben.
Oh,
Two different rivers
yes.
that drain into different areas.
Shout
Yes,
out,
there we go.
shout out to Ben. They got it. Two different rivers that drain into different areas.
Yeah.
Okay.
And other Ben, yes, we have hit some of the questions, but we've kind of done it in a roundabout
Y-
way.
Yes, we've done none of them. I like to do this. We
We
get
have.
all the questions and then we ignore them, and you have homework
But
afterwards.
we kind of have, because I know the questions, so I have been answering some of them as we go, just not like
I love that.
in an interrogative format. In the flow of my narrative, because you have unleashed me, I'm afraid,
I
and this is
have.
what
Yeah, no, so
happens.
that's the entire point is for you to talk the whole time and me just to sit here and be like, that's my whole goal. I love it so much. Oh my goodness. I've read one of the questions in this entire time that we've been sitting here, and it's actually an interesting one because it's one that I'm working with for my mundane job.
Hmm.
Are you colorblind, my friend? Do you have trouble seeing colors?
So, no, I'm
Okay.
dyschromatopsic.
Oh my God, what's that mean?
Right, so color blindness is where the problem is in the rods and cones in your eyes.
Okay.
So the bits in your eyes won't pick up a particular spectrum of color. So you have
Uh-huh.
like red, green, you have green. Dyschromatopsic is the bit of my brain that processes light doesn't do it properly. And at the more
Oh.
severe end of that, and that is also, as with color blindness, dyschromatopsia is a
Mhm.
real spectrum. And at the top end, you have achromatopsia, which is where you can't see color at all and everything's in black and white.
Mhm.
I'm not that far, so I'm dyschromatopsic. I have wide spectrum color vision deficiencies, which
Okay.
means that like it with color blindness, especially in like a lot of computer games in the accessibility settings, you can go, well, I am red green colorblind, so if I click this setting, it changes the palette of the game.
Mhm.
No, it doesn't work for me. There's just holes in what I can see in the spectrum.
So
Like,
does it go do you see everything as gray, like in color blindness, or
no,
like
no, like I can see colors, but the colors I see probably aren't the colors that everybody else sees, certainly the shades, and I have difficulties in sometimes in the contrast between. So green is a really good example of this. So like the green spectrum, the
Mhm.
top end, like your forest green, your emerald green, I can see that as a distinct green. But
Okay.
the lighter the green, the more likely I am to see it as yellow. And
Oh,
reds,
okay, so it's filtering out some color, it's filtering it really funky.
yeah,
Interesting.
and like the darker a red gets, the more likely I am to see that as brown or black. Same with grey, same with blues. But no, I can see blues. In fact, blue is one of the colour spectrum that I'm the best at. But again, the like I love purple, but what I
Interesting.
see as purple is probably not purple. It's probably a more red purple than other people see, because
Okay.
my eyes keep. Um, I went to court uh,
Mhm.
for my job, not like you got me, wearing a black suit,
Uh-huh.
so black jacket, black shoes, black trousers, and black tie.
Uh-huh.
Every single one was a different shade of black, but I didn't see that. To me, they were just black. And I got there, like, I got home from work, and Lou, my wife, was like, none of those match. And like, I've gone to court wearing navy trousers, thinking they were black. A
Uh-huh.
grey jacket, thinking it was black. Yeah. It also I get flash blind really easily by bright lights. So
Oh,
if
okay,
it's
interesting.
yeah, so if it's even slightly glary outside, I will be wearing sunglasses. I had to have the curtain in here closed because there is just enough ambient light coming through that I'd be squinting the entire way through. Um, yeah, and like as a
So,
contrast,
do
so
the colors
if
then change in light? Like,
no, not
colors
that I've
change really
noticed.
depending on the okay, okay. I
Not that
was
I've.
gonna say, I wonder if it's a light exposure thing, because color is just, like, colors being absorbed and being reflected, right?
Yeah, it could be. I mean,
So
case in point.
mhm.
So, the color that your Ben has for his name on here, I really
Uh-huh.
struggle to read that against the grey background of Discord. It doesn't
Oh my
pop for me.
goodness.
Whereas Katie's green, really
Uh-huh.
vivid, real definition. I can see that a lot easier. And there are some servers I'm in where that kind of pinky red is the default for everyone, and I really struggle sometimes to see who's actually reading, who's writing it, because that
Mhm.
color I struggle to see.
Yeah, and to us, it's super vivid, like, it's a
Yeah,
super vivid pinky red.
yeah.
Um,
Richard, your one white, absolutely fine. Oh,
yeah,
that
'cause
cross.
it
Weirdly, no,
uh-huh.
that's okay. It's a lighter. It's light enough that the contrast is there.
I see what you're saying, yeah, they're 2
Yeah,
different colors.
yeah,
Mhm. So,
yeah.
yeah,
So
everyone's gonna be, like, posting different colored things in the chat and being like, "What do you see this as? What do you see this as?"
yeah.
So, how did you find this out? Like
I thought I was colorblind at school because we
uh-huh,
picked this up at a young age that there was something weird going on with my eyes,
mhm.
but we couldn't work out what type of color blindness it was. And eventually, I worked out that it was none of them, but there was something going on. And then at a LARP event, I was chatting to a guy whose son's achromatopsic, and we were
Ah,
just chatting
and he
about
was
it.
like,
And he went,
"Here's this
"It
thing I
sounds like
have."
what you've actually got is this. Like, do you
Mhm.
struggle to see like these? Do you also struggle? Ah, sorry, Crystal, not Katie. My bad. Um, sorry. Um, Yeah, and like, do you also, because he also noticed that it was quite sunny, and I was properly moly, like I was walking around like that, because it
Mhm.
was at a LARP event set in, it was one called Odyssey, that I ended up crewing for, and the premise was it was after the fall of Alexander the Great, and the five great nations were fighting over what was left, the empire, effectively. But like
Mhm.
magic and philosophy and all that stuff was real. The gods were real, so it was like fantastic. But Bronze Age stuff is absolutely my jam. I love it to pieces. Um, but yeah, he
Okay.
noticed that I was like, because I couldn't wear sunglasses in ancient Rome, and he noticed I was squinting really hard, constantly in the sunlight. And he was like, "Do you also have these side effects?" And I went, "Yeah." He went, "I think what you've got is this. Go home and check it out." And I did, and I was like, "Yeah." As with so many of my stuff, like my ADHD and many other like neurospicy things I've got going on, I've never been formally diagnosed because there's kind of no point. Like knowing that
Right.
the having a doctor go, yes, it's definitely this, would do absolutely nothing to change my life. Can't
Yeah,
medicate for it, can't adapt
yeah, I
for it.
was gonna say, is there any kind of, like,
No,
glass filter adaptation?
no, because
No,
it's
okay.
it's just the way my brain does it. There's nothing wrong with how my eyes see the light. What's wrong is my brain won't process it properly. And like same with, I'm pretty sure I've got ADHD or certainly ADD. The
Uh-huh.
hyperactivity, I'd say a bit less so, but look at me. Um, um, but to try and get an adult diagnosis for that over here is 6+ year waiting list.
Oh my god,
And
yeah,
I
no.
have so many coping strategies that mean I work. What would
Mhm,
be like, unlike some of my other friends that have to be medicated for it because they cannot function without medication, I'm fine.
mhm,
I just have strategies, bullet point lists, checklists, and schedules and that sort of stuff. Um,
yep,
yeah,
yeah,
it's kind of same here, Joy. Like, it has made so much of my life make sense that that's what's going on. But a formal diagnosis would do is have someone go, "Yes, it's definitely this. What do you want to do about it?" And I go, "What can I do?" And they go, "Nothing really. You don't need medication,
yeah,
and you've already got coping
good
strategies." So I've
luck,
kind of gone,
now you
"Yeah,
got this. Yeah,
yeah, whatever. I'll just cope. It's fine, absolutely
and
fine."
that's
But
yeah, that's a lot of 'cause I actually was diagnosed when I was 36, and for those counting, that was pre-pandemic, but it like, knowing did bring a lot of comfort and, like, an explanation to some of the coping strategies that I was using because I developed pretty rough OCD to cope for the ADHD because the
mm,
ADHD was so bad. So, like, knowing that and being able then to catch yourself in patterns, I think is really useful and helpful.
yeah, but
So,
like I kind of do that now anyway
there you go.
because
Yeah.
like as far as I'm concerned, I have been diagnosed
Mhm.
because it's just not formal. But I don't think a formal diagnosis would for me do any different. So
Right, then
and also I can't be
no
bothered
you
waiting 6 years
right. It's
for
a
it.
long
Like
time.
it is, and like yeah. So yes, so there we go on that one. But it's also like I have schedules for the show and that sort of stuff. With this is when the release date is. This is when it needs to be edited by. This is when the patron post is
Mhm.
due. Again, it's all that kind of hyper
With
organization,
all
which I
the
think is why
alarm yeah,
yeah, I think it's why
yep.
the show has been ticking over for so long because the rest of the cast they don't need to be that organized because I already am for them, so they're kind of happy to leave me to it because also I'd be like, no, I am organizing this. Stop messing with my system. I'm the editor. Leave me be. You'll just throw me off. So
Right, well,
again,
and
that's
that's
kind
the
of why I end
thing
up
is,
show
like,
running.
we have our systems, and we have to have our systems to
Yeah.
to get through. That's why when, somebody moves things in my house, I'm like, "You cannot move that. That is my
Mm.
system. It is there. I know it's there. It looks messy to you, but it's there. If you move it, I lose it forever."
See, I'm not that bad, which is
Oh,
another
good.
reason why I don't think I need the diet
Yeah.
because I'm 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 nowhere. Yeah, I have those systems, but they're generally around work, if you know. So like my work desk,
Yeah.
um, which like my wife has been using because I can't work up here normally. I can't. This is the longest I've been able to sit down like this in a chair
Good for you.
since my op.
So good. I'm so proud of you.
Look, likewise, to you as well. It's kneesies, knee
You can see my
twins.
camera keeps shifting around, and it's
Yeah,
because I keep having to, like, move my leg to try to support
yeah,
it.
it's all
So,
good.
yeah, y'all, this hurts.
But yeah, so like up here at my work, and also when I'm in the office, Like it is set up and it's very rigid, like where stuff is, and I get very like, no, you leave that alone. That's where that goes. But outside of when I don't have to be organized, I'm happy being disorganized. But when I
Yeah.
have to be organized, I have to be organized. And
Hmm. It's
yeah,
two extremes. It's two incredible extremes.
yeah,
Like my craft room is chaos.
yeah,
But I know where everything is. But yeah, no, when I worked in an office, I work remotely now. Even on my desk now, which is
mm,
behind me, um, it is everything is very specifically put in a place, and like it has to be for me to continue to do what I'm doing. Yeah, very organized in your disorganization.
yes,
Yes. Yes,
yeah,
I love that. I love that. So I'm curious. How did you get into Star Wars? Like there's some really specific Star Wars questions in here, but
yeah.
I want to
So
know first how you got into Star Wars.
see, here's
I'm
again
sorry,
the
my
weird thing. I'm a
eagles.
fantasy person rather than sci-fi. Like I don't do
Wait,
Trek.
what?
I don't. Yeah, I don't do Trek. I don't do Doctor Who. I don't do The Expanse. I like cyberpunk and like the
Okay.
genre of cyberpunk, and I like
Mhm.
space opera. But I like
Mhm.
Star Wars because Star Wars is fantasy with laser guns.
It is. Okay. That's it, it's
Yeah,
literally like it's a soap opera in space. It's
yeah.
fantasy space.
Which is why, but like how I got into Star again, it's a really weird one. Like I've always been into Star Wars in the same way that I've always kind of been into just like background geekery. You know, I I can't remember if I saw any of the original trilogy in the cinemas. I can't remember that far back. I don't know. I did see the prequel trilogy. We're like, these are terrible. Please let the next one be better. And then was let down each time. I've mellowed a bit on them as I've gotten older.
Mhm.
In fact, I've been on Tales of the Hydian Way with lovely Ben and lovely Risa discussing the prequel trilogy and the good stuff you can get out of them. Like if you take Attack of the Clones, it's my favourite prequel one, and get rid of all of the terrible romance stuff with Anakin and Padme, what you have is a really good Star Wars noir investigation detective story with Obi-Wan and the clones. It's great. Um,
Oh my god, I've never been able to get through it.
oh, it's
I've started it multiple times and I've never been able to get through it.
no, it's my favorite of the prequels. I don't
I'll
having
watch it.
now seen what Hayden Christensen can do with a decent director and a decent script. It
Mhm.
just emphasizes how dirty he was done in the prequel trilogy. The
Oh,
sequels,
yeah,
I love.
absolutely, absolutely.
Force Awakens is amazing. Last Jedi is even better. It's probably my second favorite Star Wars film. We do not talk of the Rise of Skywalker. I've seen it once ever, and I will watch it one final time when I go to write what's coming after Shadows of the Jedi is finished, which is going to be set post Rise of Skywalker. In my desperate attempt to salvage something that isn't absolute, I nearly swore, and I didn't.
Yeah, I know,
Something,
I'm so proud of you. You've done really,
something
really well.
worthwhile from that chud, bash appeasing nonsense.
Oh my god, that's hilarious.
And they should have
So
killed Chewie and left him dead. And this is speaking as someone who loves Chewbacca. You don't fake that out. It was bad writing. And I love Chewie. You know, us big hairy things have to stick together, but he should have been dead. And I will stick to my guns on that.
I won't because I like the fantasy resurrection. I am here for that. I am here for fake death. Like, yeah.
Yeah.
Give me
But
my main characters. What's dead should not stay dead,
yeah.
contrary to Supernatural.
But like so, but yeah, aside from like the prequel trilogy, I was just Star Wars was something I enjoyed, but like I am a fantasy person. That's what I
Mhm.
do. Um, and urban horror and that sort of stuff. And
Oh,
then
nice.
when the FFG Star Wars stuff came out, my mate Stuart picked up
Mhm.
the Edge of the Empire beginner box,
Mhm.
and we had a lot of fun playing that. That was really good, and I that's when I fell in love with the system. I love the narrative die system; it's just amazingly good. Um, and then we decided to do Force Majeure,
Uh-huh.
and at that point, I started caring about Star Wars because I figured I probably should. Um, and that's the point that
Okay,
I really
okay.
got back into it because um, we didn't have Rebels or Clone Wars over here, or it was really hard to get hold of unless you were paying a lot of money for a certain cable subscription. It was Sky, I think, that had it on,
Interesting. Okay.
which like it was really expensive, and I couldn't afford it. Um,
Mhm.
like when we started the show, we just couldn't afford it. So I gradually picked them up on DVD because it was pre Disney Plus. Um,
Mhm.
I've read none of the Legends books, none of them. I've read a handful of the newer ones that are all right, but like Ed and Mikey are massive Star Wars nerds. I played the West End Games version 30, 25 years ago, something like that, and that was okay. I played a Wookiee that felt the dark side because he got annoyed no one could understand him. He was Darth Maul. Um, Misunderstood soul. But yeah, it's only since doing the show that I've really gotten into Star Wars. And like I am really into Star Wars, like boringly so these days. And I love what's coming out of Disney for the most part, barring Rise of Skywalker. Um, I've enjoyed most of The Mandalorian. I've enjoyed the good half of Book of Boba Fett. Absolutely love Andor and Ahsoka. They're phenomenally good.
God,
Um,
Andor's
I've read a
amazing.
couple
Yeah,
of books there.
go ahead,
Love
go ahead.
Rebels. Yeah, I love
Mhm.
Rebels, love Clone Wars, but it's all new to me, really, compared to some of my mates. And I imagine most of the people that are watching this and that are in the Discord that have like died in the wool, die hard Star Wars fans since the crib. Nah, like I'm a fantasy geek. Like this is all new. It's one of the reasons why I was so glad we could end up doing Dungeon Majeure because that's what I do. I do fantasy. Like
Oh, I
that's
love
my
that.
genre.
Yeah.
Um,
So, yeah, no, like confession, same. I did not start getting like I watched Star Wars growing up. We watched the VHS tapes, but like the books and stuff like that never interested me. And it wasn't until Drunkel Grog was like, "Hey, do you want to be on this Star Wars podcast?" That I was like, "Yeah, sure. Wait, what do you mean that there are different color lightsabers? They're just like green and red." And then I started like hitting the wiki and getting into
yeah,
everything. And then I was like, well, I guess I have to get Disney Plus now when it came out. And I've been binging
yeah,
all of the
yeah.
content.
I mean, I'd fall in love with the actual plays at that point as well, because obviously once we started as well, I was like, I probably need to know a bit more about and like,
Uh-huh.
I mean, obviously, Coruscant Nights and Flight Risk came just after me and are great. I think so good. But like
Mm,
Starbirds, I was chatting with Sam when he was first thinking of launching Starbirds, which is another phenomenal show. Um, and like
yeah.
most of my podcatcher is just Star Wars shows. There's hardly any fantasy on there. Also, I'm really bored with D&D. Like, I'm just so
Yes,
bored with it.
I can tell. I can tell with what you said before.
And this is a D&D
Like,
hoodie. And like, D&D, I cut my teeth on. I cut my the second
yep.
edition D&D is probably the first big role playing system I owned. That and Cyberpunk. They were my two original
Oh yeah.
like
Talk about
multi
crunchy. Yeah.
and Advanced Fighting Fantasy because that was actually how I started role
Mhm.
playing was through Fighting Fantasy, which is the original Choose Your Own Adventure series. Warlock of Firetop
Oh,
Mountain.
fun. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like I just yeah, as you said, Richard, D&D's really oversaturated. There's a D&D podcast, a brand new one that I've started listening to, mostly because we've been interacting on Blue Sky, and
Mhm.
everyone in the cast seems like really good fun. And I've just started listening to it, and it's a good. It's called Dice Company. It's a really good show,
Ooh,
but they
okay.
are already 8 episodes in, on more downloads than I was by halfway through our second season, because it's D&D.
Oh yeah. Everybody wants D&D content to
Everyone's
consume.
D&D content, and it really
Do you find that
surprises me
your
that
Dungeon Majeure is doing better because of that?
no, no, because it's not D&D, it's Genesis.
Ah, yeah, which is the hidden system that I feel like nobody understands how good it is.
Yeah. Um, but it's everywhere, it's everything, and like
Mhm,
cynically, if I wanted listeners, I would do a D&D podcast because
mhm.
I can run D&D in my even fifth ed. I can run D&D in my sleep and tell a great story. It just doesn't inspire me. And I've tried. There's a guy called Sly Flourish, Mike O'Shea, who has
Mhm.
done Return the Lazy DM and Lazy DM's Companion, which as system neutral like GM tools go are some of the best I've ever read. I rank them right up there
Nice.
with like Fate Adversary Toolkit and the
Uh-huh.
Mothership Second Edition Warden Operation Manual. It's phenomenally good. Um, but he's
I
also
don't know
done
that
some.
one. Can you drop that in the chat later?
Mm, but he's
Perfect.
also done some like D&D fifth ed campaigns, and I've ran them, and they were really good for D&D. And I'm playing in a D&D game right now, and I'm really enjoying the story. But I just like, oh, it's another hour and a half of uninspiring combat.
And like for so I started playing D&D like right when um Critical Role came out. And for
Mm,
those of you who like are in the know with the systems, Critical Role really is one of the reasons that D&D blew up so big. That, and
Yeah.
I would say the pandemic,
Yeah.
like, because what else are you going to do with your friends, right? Oh my God, I was playing 3 or 4 games a week. So like it was intense. So like for folks who are fairly new to it, it's still really exciting. It is a good
Mm,
system, but it is a fairly basic system. And I would say it's a very prescriptive system where like you win or lose based on your role. Whereas the fate system, like you're trying to tell a story collaboratively together in a way that I think is really unique and
mm,
leads to even more creativity than D&D. So for those of you who are like, "Oh my God, you're trashing D&D," number one, we're not.
mm.
Like,
Yeah.
number
I mean,
two, like,
I am a bit, but I've
try
been playing.
Genesis,
Yeah,
right?
I am a little bit. I am trashing D&D a little bit, but I've been running D&D for 35 years. You
Right,
know,
you're a
I'm
little
allowed to
biased.
trash D&D. I have
Yes.
boxes of first and second edition in my loft. I gave 3 shelves worth of third edition to my local gaming store. All my fourth editions upstairs. I've got loads of fifth edition. Like I know of what I speak.
Yes,
You know.
yes, exactly, exactly, exactly. And you have experience in other gaming systems.
Yeah.
I think it's a great gateway into the
Mm,
RPG family. There are
yeah.
problems with it, like everything.
Yeah. But like it is so ubiquitous, and there seems to be
Mhm.
a bit of a mindset where a certain branch of players refuse to even try anything else. I'm like, why? Why would you
Right,
go to a
right.
buffet and just eat a Hawaiian pizza?
It's
Like,
like
there's a
even
whole world out there of
yes.
others. In fact, Mr. T has just posted in about Blaze in the Dark, which is a
No,
great
no, no.
system, and that's what I
Huh.
played during the pandemic. Blaze in the Dark. Blaze
Nice.
in the Dark is a dark fantasy kind of semi post-apocalyptic game. It
Ooh, okay.
set in a it's a steampunk it's steampunk dark fantasy set in a city where the only thing stopping the entire population being eaten by ghosts is a wall of lightning powered by the souls of demon whales. And you play
Even
a
whales?
yeah,
Like whales, like Star Trek, like
like
4, we went to save the
yeah, like
whales. Okay.
leviathans possessed by horrible things. Yeah,
Oh my goodness,
I think
amazing.
I think Dishonored is very Dishonored. But you play a group of criminals.
I love
You
that.
play a
Oh,
group of
that's
criminals, and the group is more important than the character because there's a chance your character will go mad or get arrested or get killed, but the crew is the keynote of what you're doing, and you are criminals. Try and like you could be righteous criminals, like in the Magpies podcast, where they started off as
mm,
thieves and basically became revolutionaries. But it's a heist game where you don't have to do any of the heist planning. You start off like you do a bit of prep work to like find out
mm,
what your score is going to be, which is generally who are we hitting and how are we hitting them, like a rough
mm.
idea, and then you start in the action, and it's very fiction first. Flashbacks are in there, so yeah, you can kind of go, oh, you can Bill and Ted it
Oh,
kind of. And your
yeah.
gear, you have X number of gear slots, but you don't have to pick what gear is in those slots until you need them. Um, it Your most common result is success with a consequence. Um, I stole a lot of the
Remember that.
mechanics for the Port Haven heist in season 5 of
Mhm.
Force Majeure. If you've listened to that, a load like threat clocks, where things tick down
Uh-huh.
as your consequences, things tick down and situations get worse. And it's your small group of thieves against an entire hostile city. It's really good system, and
Oh
that's
my
what we
god.
played a lot of. That and Band of Blades, which is same system, it's the Forge in the Dark system, but you're
Mhm.
playing a group of soldiers on the run from an undead horde, very much inspired by Black Company and that sort of stuff. In fact, for that,
Okay.
I
Yeah.
wrote mission reports for every mission we did that went on my blog for my Band of
That's
Blades
so
campaign that I
fun.
played in. Yeah, it's
Oh, yeah.
great.
And that
Um,
like there are so many systems and there are even more systems that are constantly coming out too like that.
oh yeah.
Like, oh my god, people look at the RPG, go to your local game store. A lot of them will have a bunch of different ones. And then go to if you're around the US, Origins and Gen Con.
Mm,
Oh my god, I picked up 3 or 4 different systems while I was there.
I
Like,
think for us it's Dragon Meat. I think is the British
is
one,
it
and
dragon
UK
meat?
Games Expo. Dragon Meat and UK Games Expo are the two. I,
Okay.
I don't do
I need
I
to
don't do them. I don't do cons because they've always fallen on times when I can't do them generally. And since the
yeah.
pandemic,
Mhm.
I am not good with crowds anymore.
Don't blame you. How
Um,
were we before?
yeah, yeah. Essen in Europe. Well, Coleridge. I think it's in German. Germany's
Yes.
Essen. I want to say.
Okay.
It's another
Uh-huh.
big games expo.
Nice. Oh yeah, we've got a okay. And like here in the server, reasons to get on that server. Richard is writing his own RPG right now. So woohoo. I love it. Okay, let's get back to you. Let's get back to you. We're gonna rapid fire because we've got 5 minutes left.
Yep.
So
I'll try and
having
be quick.
found out that you just got super into Star Wars 6 years ago,
Mhm.
what is your favorite era of Star Wars
I
that
really
you
like the
grew up?
Clone Wars. I
Okay.
like the Clone Wars. To be honest, I like all of them. There are
Mhm.
great stories you can tell in all of them. The one I'm most interested in exploring is post Rise of Skywalker because there's so little out there for that that I've basically got a blank. I don't know enough to stick to canon stuff, and I
Mhm.
don't want to, and I also don't want people going, "Oh, that's not how it happens." Bugger off! Ooh, go away!
Yeah.
Like it's my story.
No, I think
Um,
you can say that. You can actually say that.
I can say bugger off. Whew,
Yeah.
whew, back in the repertoire. Like bugger off. Like it's my story. I don't care. Like this is what happens in my game. Just deal with it.
Mhm. Oh, yeah,
I
totally. Like, this is fantasy.
Yeah. Um,
Our Star Wars. It's not your Star
I have
Wars.
now fallen in love with the current one that a lot of the Disney shows are set. Kind of the post fall of the Empire, pre Rise of the First Order, because
Uh-huh.
I like the things fraying apart at the edges because there's more interesting space to tell stories there. So
Yeah,
that um that that like I don't really I think the one I struggle most is Standard Rebellion because too much is known about it.
right, right. There are already a lot of stories there.
Yeah,
Not a whole lot to still tell.
yeah.
Yeah. Nice. Okay. What is a typical day like for you?
I've been thinking about this one and I can't tell you because a typical day for me now is not what a typical day was for me for the last several years prior to my injury. Because
Ah,
since then,
okay.
like I can't,
Makes a
I
little
don't.
difference, doesn't
Yeah, pre-crippling,
it?
I'd get up at 5:30, I would feed the cats, I would go on my exercise bike for an hour, listening to podcasts and doing my tablet stuff. Then I would edit.
Mhm,
Then, if I was working from home, I'd edit for an hour, start work at
mhm,
7:30, work through till 3:30, and then either read or play on the console or do some more editing or whatever. Um, if I was in the office, then after I've done on my bike, I would get on the bus at like 6:05 in the morning, get to work for 7:30. Again, come home for about 5 o'clock ish. We tend to eat about 7 o'clock because that's also when like Lou's finished and whoever's cooking is cooked. And if it's a
mhm,
Tuesday night, I'd role play, and if it's not a Tuesday night, then I wouldn't because
mhm,
my gaming I'm too tired a lot of this. Oh, I was too tired. And then like weekends would be who knows? Like I'd either be running or recording, or we'd go for a mooch, or we'd go for a city break, or we'd go for a walk around the nature park, or whatever.
mhm,
Since my injury, every day is hard to pin down because like I'm back at work but only part time.
mhm,
I'm still badly injured. I'm a lot more mobile than I was, but I'm not mobile enough. So currently, it's wake up whenever the cats get me up. We tend to get out of bed about 7. I start work at 8. I work through till noon. Then we watch
mhm.
Bargain Hunt every dinner time. Big up to Bargain Hunt, love it. You won't get that over there, but it's amazing.
Nope.
Um,
Have no idea what that is. It sounds really good.
um, Two teams of two have £300 to spend in an hour at antiques fairs. They can buy three things. One has to cost more than £75. One has to meet a challenge, and one can be whatever they want. Whatever money they've got left goes to their expert, who is an antiques, usually an auctioneer or an
Uh-huh.
antiques geezer to buy something with. Then it gets auctioned off. Whoever makes the most money wins. Very rarely do people make money on bargain hunts, but I absolutely love it. It's a
Oh my
real
god, that's
guilty
so
pleasure.
fun.
And then
Yeah.
like in the afternoons, I will read. I've read 55 books, 56 books this year so far because like I'm reading a lot more because I can't do much. I can't. I had nothing to edit for the last 6 weeks. Um,
Mhm, mhm.
so like I've just cleared Miles Morales Spider Man. That was great. I've cleared
Nice.
Jedi Fallen Order, that was top. Sea of Stars, which is amazing. I've just started playing Horizon Zero Dawn. So yeah, like console
Oh,
games in the
yeah, yeah.
afternoon. Um, but yeah, that's kind of my day at the moment. But it's hard to pin because again, the better I get, the more that's going to change. I can't wait until my leg will bend enough to let me go back on my exercise bike, though. I'm really because that's where I listen to all my podcasts because I need to have my hands being busy so I can listen to a show, and because of I have aphantasia, so I have no mind's eye.
Mhm.
So everything I process audially, um, which means I can't listen to people talking and think.
Oh my God,
So I
that's
can't
amazing.
So unlike Lou, who can listen to podcasts while working, I can't because I will
Yeah.
either do one or the other. I can listen to music, music's fine, but I can't listen
Mhm.
to a show while working because my brain will go, no, you focus on one or the other of your oral inputs here. Um, so I've really struggled to keep on top of my podcast because I can't just
Mhm.
sit there and listen because then I'm like, I need to be doing something with my hands. Um, and the temptation then is to go on Twitter or Blue Sky or whatever, or Discord, and
Mhm.
then I'm not listening because I'm reading. So it's
Right, right. So you have to be busy. You have to be physically busy.
yeah,
Interesting. I've heard of that. I have
mm,
That's interesting. Richard is the same.
yeah.
Ah, I'm gonna have to
I
talk
didn't
to you about
even
this.
know aphantasia was a thing until Christine from Hiding Way and other amazing podcasts that I think have all fallen down,
Mhm,
unfortunately. Glass Dagger and Enterprise and that.
mhm.
She posted a here when you think of an apple, which of these five images are you? And I'm like, wait, what? And Lou, my wife, she's hyperphantasic. So when she imagines something, she has the full sensory suite, smells, tastes, sounds, everything. It's why she can't watch
Ooh,
horror films because she's too
yeah,
in it.
into him.
And like,
Mhm.
I see nothing. I have no mind's eye. It is just a void. I got
Oh
nothing
my
there.
god.
Um,
What is that like?
well,
Oh my god.
I didn't know it. What that? Yeah,
It's
it's just
constant up here.
yeah, like my inner monologue never stops because that's how I process the world. Weirdly, I dream. I
Mm.
dream in pictures, but the second I
Uh-huh.
hit that liminal waking up point, I am aware when it transitions from my head pictures to narration.
Oh my god.
Yeah,
Oh my god, that is wild. I So my
yeah,
mind is blown. My mind is blown. And unfortunately we've hit time. So we're finding out with all of these that we just need a second one. We'll
yeah.
do a
Clearly,
second one. So, and there are so many questions that we got to a whole three three questions in the chat. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and we're going to let you go through the questions in the chat and answer them in the Behind the Mask Discord. If you want to be on the Behind the Mask Discord, there's going to be a link on our YouTube where you can get to that, which is awesome. For those of you listening on general channel, thank you for being super flexible this morning. We had some issues with permissions because of Discord updates. So yeah, super fun.
thank you for having
That's
me.
it. You're welcome. Thank you for being here. Where can we find you on the interwebs?
So I'm still on Twitter. How long for? Who knows? At Madam Beltaine. I am on Blue Sky, which is much better. At Madam
Mhm.
Beltaine. I'm on Mastodon. At Madam Beltaine at dice.camp, and that's MADDAMBELTAI. Yeah, TAINE.
I was like, can
Mad
I see
Damn
your
Beltaine. Um, Um, the show is in the same places, basically, except Blue Sky. It's not there just yet at Force Majeure Pod, and you can get it wherever you get your podcasts. We are everywhere. We're ubiquitous. Same with Dungeon Majeure. That is Dungeon Majeure, and is a lot more fun than Force Majeure because I stopped trying to be professional and just go silly. It is a very, very silly show, and I have an awful lot of fun. It's mostly pun based, I'll be honest with you, and the world of Dungeon Majeure is internally consistent within the story, but not externally consistent because the world is run by mad gods that change the narrative to make them have a more entertaining story in their retirement heaven.
Oh my god, I love that. I love that so much. So yes, absolutely. If you want serious Star Wars, if you want crazy fantasy, Adam's got it for you. Adam, thank you so much for being here.
No worries.
We're
Thank
all
you.
gonna hop on those, go support you, and the links will be on the YouTube. For the replay. Thank you all. We'll see you all next time. Behind the mask. Now we dance to our music.